Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Vinyl Den. My name is Nick,
I'm Ian. Was
and
that for you? Did I do that all
what's
right?
that?
Did I do that all right for you?
What's that?
My introduction was it all
Yes,
right.
it was nice and normal. Because if you guys are watching this and you don't know, Ian and we co-host a podcast called the Life in General podcast, and we've been doing it for about 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of finally decided to branch off and do a YouTube channel,
Right.
completely
Exclusively
separate.
used to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exclusive to YouTube and completely separate from our podcast. So if you don't know, yeah, normally Ian does like this, like drawn out. I don't know what the hell he does with his name, but
Just whatever feels right at the time.
whatever feels right when he introduces himself.
Absolutely.
So in today's show, we're gonna kind of go over kind of what got us into vinyl
Mm-hmm.
and what made us finally decide to do this channel. Um,
Yeah.
Ian, do you want to start us off, or
Sure. What got me into vinyl was just being born, basically. You know,
being a child of the '80s?
being a child. Yeah. Being a kid, and my dad had vinyl, obviously, because he was a child of the '60s and '70s, and some of my earliest memories were even going to like Harmony House, which I don't know if anyone out there will remember Harmony House.
Yeah, I
The
think Harmony House is kind of a Michigan thing.
It might have been, or at least a Midwest thing.
If you don't know, Ian and I are both in Michigan. So
yes, but it was a big record store chain. At least, like Nick said, kind of more of a Midwest or Michigan chain.
yeah,
And when he would be shopping, at 3-4 years old, I'm just wandering around. But always the album covers always stood out to me, even as a child.
mm-hmm.
I was obviously didn't know much about music at 3 or 4 years old, but I could at least appreciate the albums. And I had albums then too. As I was getting older, I got a record player, and we had cassettes too, because Walkmans and all that stuff. But at home, I had vinyl as a child, as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old child. I had vinyl. So that was just what it was. But then when CDs came out, it was a fad. I mean, it wasn't a fad, but it was at the time. It seemed like a fad. But I wanted a CD player, just like everyone else had a CD player.
Not me.
Right now, you held out longer than most.
Yeah.
But
I think I would graduate. I was out of high school.
Yeah.
When I bought my first CD.
Right. But at that point, everything that was being released, it was slowly becoming vinyl and cassette, or I'm sorry, CD and cassette, and vinyl was just disappearing. So if you wanted to buy new stuff, it was going to be on cassette or CD.
Yeah.
And it wasn't much longer after that where cassette was even just, obsolete. So I got out of buying vinyl just because it wasn't available. And my mom's always had this thing: if you're not using it, throw it out. Yeah. So she made me get rid of all my records because I had a CD player. You don't need your records anymore. Well, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
And but I've always loved vinyl. I've always been connected to vinyl. I've always felt that's always been the original way to listen to music.
The purest kind of form.
Yeah, it's just always seemed
music.
More natural to me.
Yeah.
CD's convenient, but it's disposable. Whereas vinyl was I never saw it as disposable.
I always saw it kind of more of a. It was more than just sitting down and putting a song on. With the CD, right, you just pop it out of the jewel case, pop it in, listen to it. With an MP3, it's even easier. You just kind of do whatever you want with it. But with vinyl, it was the packaging. Open it up for the first time, the smell of vinyl. Mm-hmm. There's a whole. It's the art. There's a whole piece to it. One of my earliest childhood memories is sitting. I had this, like, I don't know if it was Fisher Price or what it is, but one of those plastic, I think it was like the yellow and white plastic record player is what I had in my room. Mm-hmm. And I remember after Thriller came out by Michael Jackson, I remember getting, I was young at the time, so I'm sure my parents bought it for me, but right, it was I remember like sitting in my bedroom just listening to that record over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it was I think probably the first album I actually ever bought myself was Appetite for Destruction when that came out. So that came out in 87?
Yep.
right? So it's probably sometime in '88 I bought it, but I still had that album for years and years and years and years. And when I moved, well, prior to, so I graduated high school in '97. So it was probably my sophomore and junior year. Me and my friend Corey, we'd go to there was a flea market in the town we grew up in, and this, vinyl wasn't popular then, but there was a guy
it was dying off by then.
it was almost dead at that time, because you're talking like 95, 96,
right?
And there was a guy there that sold vinyl for dirt cheap, and he actually had really good used copies. So I had a pretty decent little vinyl collection that I was still listening to up until I moved out of my parents' house in '99. So I was still listening to it then. And so I don't know why, but when I moved, I didn't take any of my records with me. So they all stayed at my parents' house. And when my parents moved in 2007, when they were cleaning their house out, they threw all my records out.
Yeah. which is funny, because around 2007, 2008 is when vinyl was really kind of just starting to inch its way back into the market.
Yeah.
As a viable source.
Yeah.
So the very first vinyl record I bought for myself was Europe, The Final Countdown.
Yeah.
1986. Yep. So, but I had Thriller on cassette. My buddy who lived by my grandmother, he had it on vinyl. So, I would listen to it on vinyl when I was over there hanging out with him, because we would listen to that all the time. And but I had Thriller on cassette. So I got it for Christmas in 84, 83, 83.
Somewhere around there.
Christmas of 83, I think. Yeah.
That's crazy. It's that was a long, long time ago. And then I guess when you started collecting vinyl again before I did.
Yeah, well, on and off throughout the years, if I found something that either I didn't know was on vinyl, because there was Encore Records in Ann Arbor, and I'd go there to look at CDs and records, but records more just for nostalgia and everything else, because I didn't have a record player. But if I saw something that I thought was unique, I picked up a first pressing of Counting Crows Recovering the Satellites there, and Jethro Tull's Rock Island there.
Okay.
Because it was like, I got all my dad's Jethro Tull records, but he stopped buying them on vinyl in '87 with Crest of a Name. That was the last one he bought. So when Rock Island came out, he bought it on CD right out the gate. So I never had that one. So when I saw it, a really nice copy there, I was like, "Whoop, that's mine." Yeah. But I still didn't have a record player yet.
You're one of those
yeah,
vinyl listeners.
When I got that was like 2004, or maybe even a little earlier than that. No, that was 2004, I think. So yeah, I mean, it was just random. But yeah, once I was able to secure a record player, it was just nonstop. And that was in 2013 when I finally got a new record. Well, it was a used record player, but yeah. So then I was like nonstop buying records at that point. So.
And at the time, I mean, I was still living in Tennessee. I had moved back. I didn't move back to Michigan until 2015. Right. And it was, I was always interested in vinyl in those years, but I wasn't interested enough in it to actually get back into collecting it. I didn't get back into buying vinyl until early 2018.
Right.
And that was really, so I'm a big MXPX fan. Have been since the 90s. And they did a Kickstarter where for their newest album that they were funding through Kickstarter. They didn't, it was all self-issued and all that. And so part of the package that I bought came with a record. So that was kind of what got me. I was like, well, hell, I've got this on order. I'm going to get it eventually. I might as well start buying some other records. And once I kind of got back into it and realized, and I guess not realized, but remembered how great records sound. And, it was just, it was on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
stopped.
You ran it at full speed. But
yeah, because I'm currently at about 550 albums.
Yeah, and I'm hovering around that 200 mark. So
yeah,
But and actually
And if you
tomorrow is my I need to organize. I'm doing a vinyl reorganization.
I did that earlier today. I literally pulled out
Yeah.
all of my records and reorganized them
Yeah.
all.
Well, I've got all those fancy sleeves, which check out another episode because we'll be talking about those.
Yeah, we will.
But I got some fancy
Next
sleeves
week.
that I want. Yeah, so I've got some fancy sleeves that I want to put on to protect my records and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta go through and do all that. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. So
Yeah, but I will say that if you're a vinyl fan, you can always go on. If you go to discogs.com/user/Nick Fowler 11, you can see my collection on there.
and once I get my collection organized on Discogs, I'll give you all that information too because I don't really know what it is right now, and it's not. And mine's not organized at all.
Yeah,
so, but it will be. It will be.
Yeah.
If anything, just for the show, so people, if people are out there watching and they do want to go see your collection or my collection, they can. They'll be able to do that. So yeah. I'll put that on the higher priority element of my to-do list.
You'll get to it eventually. Hey, if you're going to go through and reorganize all your records tomorrow, it's a perfect time to scan them all. Perfect time to scan them all into Discogs.
Yep. Yeah. So another thing I meant to mention when we were talking at the early part of this was when I said CDs they're kind of disposable. Mm-hmm. They kind of led to an almost disposable level of music too, where you could where you're just scanning through, you're picking specific songs and maybe not necessarily listening to songs that you're not familiar with. That and a lot of times turn out to be some of the better songs on albums.
Yeah,
and having a complete package, it's kind of taken for granted now, especially in this day and age when artists will just release one or two songs and that's fine. But back in the day, there's a package element to the way an album is organized with the songs. There's actually somebody who sits down and listens to the songs.
There's a reason that they're in that order.
They're put in a specific order, and there's an art to that as well. And not having to, but just sitting and listening to a full side, and and then flipping over and listening to another full side, listening to all these different songs that you may not be familiar with, it's a huge treasure. Yeah. To me, just listening to everything from beginning to end,
Yeah, it's something that I think is lost on younger generations
because it probably is. Yeah,
you take an album, you take your phone and you just type in whatever song you want and kind of go on with it. And if I think you could take that approach, you might say, oh yeah, I want to listen to some rock here. I'll put on Stairway to Heaven. But not know that When the Levee Breaks
is actually the best song on that album.
It's the best song on that album, and you might not know that because wasn't something.
Well, it's the last song.
Yeah, it wasn't something that was played, on the radio. It wasn't a popular song, but it's you miss out on those gems that are hidden on a lot of those bigger albums.
Absolutely. So, and then, I mean, the same thing could be said for cassette, but I've never been a fan, even when I was younger, and that was kind of the thing. I never really had a thing for cassette. There's I know there's a lifespan for vinyl, but it's a much shorter lifespan for cassettes. They wear much faster.
They do.
And as you know, because they're portable but wear faster, they have a tendency to melt in hot cars.
Yeah, Ian melted one of my cassettes.
Yeah,
way back in the day. It was the cassette, wasn't it?
It was Kerplunk.
It was Kerplunk by Green Day. Yeah, yep. Ian left it sitting on the dashboard of my car,
and it melted.
And then melted.
I mean, it would have melted the CD too, but honestly, I kind of treated CDs the way you treat vinyl. I never touched the CDs. I was the sides, and
I still do that with the CDs.
Yeah, exactly.
The limited amount of CDs I have.
Growing up, because we learned how to hold and manage and handle vinyl records, and I think that spilled over into CDs. So I never would have left a CD just out on top of a dashboard like that. But the case I might have, who knows? And I've had a few cases of my own melt in the past.
But so that was kind of it. I figured we'd just do a quick intro episode, and really kind of going forward. We don't really plan on these episodes being really long. Probably 15, 20 minutes, probably tops, right around there. Just kind of a quick show about things we got going on, or things we see, or albums we picked up, and what's coming out, and
once the quarantine's over.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I still pick things up with the quarantine.
Yeah, but I meant
on,
as far as like new releases and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's been postponed. But there's still stuff that I know that's coming out. There's an album coming out at the end of this month, end of June, that I'm looking forward to buying, and I think there's one in July that I'm looking forward to buying as well.
Yeah.
So.
But that was it, guys. Come back and check out episode 2. You can go ahead and you give us a thumbs up, right, Ian? And then
thumbs up.
Hit the subscribe button down below. Don't give us a thumbs down, Ian.
I know. I started and I caught myself. No thumbs down.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Subscribe.
Yeah.
And then you can always email us also. We do have an email address. It's thevinyldenchannel@gmail.com. Yep. But you can leave us some comments down below and come back and check us out next time. All right.
Absolutely.
Talk to you guys later.
Peace.